What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So if you've been a subscriber of my channel for a while, you've probably seen clips like this,
sheer stupidity.
or this,
Because then you'll be rich and not broke and dumb.
and you either wondered who the heck that person is or laughed because you know that it's Dave Ramsey. Well, regardless of whether you know who Dave Ramsey is or not, today I want to walk you through his 7 baby steps that are probably the most successful financial plan in terms of number of people that have become millionaires by following it. So let's walk through each of these 7 baby steps on how you can really become financially free, and then I'll give you my thoughts on why this system is so effective and what slight alterations I've made to it for my personal financial situation. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you do enjoy today's video, and let's jump right into it. So as you may have picked up on, I am a bit of a fan of Dave Ramsey and have even called into his show before. But in case you have no idea who this guy is, let's quickly walk through the 7 baby steps that come directly from his book, The Total Money Makeover, which I highly recommend, and there is a link in the description if you do want to check that out. So baby step number 1 is to save $1,000 for an emergency fund. Now you may think that $1,000 is not nearly enough for an emergency fund, and you would be right. But this is just temporary while you pay off your larger debts, and we will establish a larger emergency fund in a later step. So for now, just set aside $1,000 in a checking or savings account that is easily accessible should something pop up in the case of an emergency. That brings us to baby step number 2, which is paying off all of your debts other than your mortgage. And yes, this means everything, including your credit cards, your car loans, your student loans, and even personal or business loans if you do have those. Now, your house is probably your largest debt if you do own a home, and that's why paying off your home or mortgage will again be addressed in a later step. But for now, you just want to pay off all of your debts other than your mortgage. This brings us to a point of great debate and controversy when it comes to Dave Ramsey, and that is what he calls the debt snowball. The debt snowball is the system Dave recommends where you list all of your debts highest to lowest and begin paying them off starting with the smallest debt first. So if you have $1,000 in credit card debt, then you would start with that before moving on to the much larger student loans or car loans. Now, a lot of people think this is a bad recommendation since paying off the debts with the highest interest rate first would technically make the most sense, right? Well, it depends on what you believe, but technically yes, looking at strictly the numbers, you would want to pay off the highest interest debts first, such as an auto loan with a 9 or 10% interest rate, and that's regardless of what the actual balance is on that debt. However, as you may know, finances are not just about the numbers, especially when looking at your personal finances. These are actually largely determined by your emotions. I mean, think about it. You work hard to earn money, and when you go and spend that money, it does hurt a little bit, even if you're buying something that you need or really, really want. Or look at investing, for example. If you've ever made any type of investment, you know that it is a very, very emotional process, and the best investors work really hard to remove their emotions from the equation entirely. So because of that, the reason Dave Ramsey suggests using a debt snowball and ignoring the interest rates on your debts is because by paying off the smallest debts first, you'll have a little psychological boost that will make you feel good and accomplished and motivate you to move on to the next larger debt. It's almost like creating a list of all the things you need to get done and doing the easiest task first, just so you have that checked off and have that great feeling of checking one thing off of your list. Now, maybe you still think that paying off the highest interest debt first is the best way to go, and if that's true for you, then go ahead and do that. It's your life, it's your financial situation. But as someone who has seen a lot of people dig themselves out of debt using this system, I can say that the debt snowball does work, and that little psychological motivation by paying off just a few $100s in credit card debt, for example, really does kickstart your financial journey to becoming completely debt-free. Otherwise, you may find that you get pretty bogged down by the large figures in some of those larger debts, like your auto loans, your student loans, or even your mortgage down the road. So now that you've paid off all of your debts other than your mortgage in step 2, that brings us to step 3, which is to establish an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses, which obviously builds on the $1,000 from the first step. Now, these 3 to 6 months of expenses should include every possible expense you can think of, including your mortgage or rent, your utilities, insurance, food, and any and all expenses that come up on a regular basis. But what about your car payment? Well, if you did baby step 2 properly, you no longer have a car payment anymore, and that is why this system works so well and really allows you to build wealth rapidly, as we'll see in the next few steps. So once you've added up all of your expenses expenses, try to shoot for the higher end of that 3 to 6 months, and if you can afford 6 months of expenses, then I wouldn't worry about having too much in an emergency fund. Another important thing to mention is that this money should be easily accessible in a checking or savings account and should not be invested. Say your expenses are $5,000 per month, then it may be difficult for you to have $15,000 to $30,000 just sitting in a bank account when this money could be invested and earning you interest year after year. But the whole point of having an emergency fund is that this money is easily accessible at a moment's notice. And even if you think that you could just sell off your investments in a matter of days, what if these investments had taken a short-term dip and you were forced to sell for a loss just to fix your car or pay off whatever emergency popped up? In my opinion, it's just better to have this money easily accessible, and if it really drives you nuts not earning enough money on your money, then you can always put it in a high-interest savings account, which sometimes offer as high as 3 to 4% or even more. So those 3 steps, especially step 2, are honestly the hardest and most time-consuming part for most people. But the final 4 steps is really a lot more fun in my opinion, and is the part when you get to build your wealth and stack money at a rapid pace thanks to all the hard work that you did in the past 3 steps. So that brings us to step 4, which is investing 15% of your household income in some sort of retirement account, whether that be a Roth IRA, a 401k, or both, depending on your employer and the accounts that you have access to. I highly recommend a Roth IRA, and if you have no idea what that is, that's totally fine, and be sure to check out my video on that specific type of account. But by having both a Roth IRA and a 401k, you really are setting yourself up for a great financial future. And remember, in these accounts, just keep it simple, and as long as you invest consistently over a long period of time, you'll have a pretty great nest egg by the time you go to retire. Now, I am not a financial advisor, but personally, I keep it pretty simple and boring and buy broad index funds in my own retirement accounts. But as always, be sure to talk to your financial advisor and figure out what investment strategy is best for you and your financial goals. So step 5, 6, and 7, and really step 4 that we just talked about, can all happen simultaneously, with step 5 being funding some sort of college fund for your children. For most people, a 529 is the best option in terms of college savings, and even if you don't have children, it doesn't hurt to start now if you do plan on having children, or you can always increase your investing from step 4 or fund the college account of a niece or nephew, since that really could be life-changing and give them a huge advantage and jumpstart on their financial future down the road. Step 6 is to pay off your mortgage early, and again, at this point, you won't have any debt and you won't be taking on any more debt, and that makes it a lot easier to tackle your mortgage and hit those investing recommendations since you aren't throwing money at the bank every single month. I mean, just look at your personal car loans and student loans. For the average person, those 2 payments alone can easily be over $1,000 a month or more, so by paying all of those debts off in step 2, tackling your mortgage becomes much more realistic and feasible. So once you've done all of those 6 steps, the 7th and most important step in my opinion is to live and give like no one else. Now, the first part of this is to live and enjoy the hard work that you have put into your financial health. Being a super saver might be fun and all for some people, but at some point you should enjoy your money and enjoy the hard work that you have put in. That's not to say that you should go blow everything on a brand new sports car and a beach house, but there's no problem with enjoying your hard work and really changing your family lineage by creating generational wealth that can be passed on to the future generations of your family. And the second part of this step is to give, which in my opinion is extremely important since the people who win with money are the people who give their money. Even donating to a local charity or funding a family member's college account will not only make you feel good, but really can change the future of an individual who is important to you in your life. So those are the 7 baby steps, and while Dave Ramsey does go into a lot more detail in his book, The Total Money Makeover, as we've said before on this channel, it really is that simple, and you don't need some complex strategy in order to become financially free. I know that there are a lot of critics of Dave Ramsey and his financial system, and that's fine, and you are free to have your own opinions and use whatever strategy works best for you. But I will say that you don't get that many haters without gaining a large following in the first place. Over 6 million copies of The Total Money Makeover have been sold, and countless more people have gone through Dave's system, Financial Peace University. So why is this system so effective? Well, it's pretty simple, and it really all centers around debt, or in this case, not having any debt. The borrower truly is slave to the lender, and while I do personally believe that there are good types of leverage, not having ridiculous and irresponsible amounts of debt really is the most important step to build wealth and achieve financial freedom. Like I said earlier, when you aren't giving your money to the bank every single month for your student loans, your car loans, and your mortgage, it becomes much easier to put all of that money towards investing or whatever other cause you believe is deserving of your hard-earned money. It also works because it appeals to the average individual who doesn't have the time or desire to read some complex financial theory on how to become a millionaire. The system is largely based on controlling your emotions with your purchasing, investing, and saving decisions. And while I do personally stray from the system in one or two ways with my use of credit cards and my own investing strategy, for the average person, Dave's simple investing strategy and outright hatred of credit cards does make sense. Most people are probably not able to properly use a credit card, at least until they retrain themselves on how to win with money. So if you do want a more in-depth look at these 7 baby steps, be sure to use that link in the description for Dave's book, The Total Money Makeover, which really is a life changer in regards to your personal finances. I hope you did get value out of today's content, so if you did enjoy, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. As always, thank you so much for your time. I seriously appreciate it so much. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.